What's up, guys? Welcome back. We are still trying to make progress on the 1000 SP project. In the last episode, you saw us cut the pinch welds off and actually body drop this thing onto the ground. There's a laundry list of things to do to even get it to the point where I want it ready enough for Complex Union in Canada in a few weeks. So we got a lot to do there, but we're starting this episode off working on some Ludwick's Garage booth stuff. I don't film a lot of this stuff, but it's a little bit of fabrication involved, so since I'm doing it, might as well film it. So what we're working on is, back a few years ago, I made this double BBS Motorsport 3-inch lip sign, right? So this is a true BBS Motorsport lip. You can see how the lip curls down and rolls over for structural integrity, like basically giving it a stronger lip. These are true BBS Motorsport lips. There's a 3-inch lip here and a 3-inch lip there. So they're basically just back to back. The middle, I laser cut some wood spacers and then some acrylic, which have the actual bolts that are through bolted holding it together. So essentially this is just a gold acrylic that engraves black. So this is all laser engraved into the acrylic, and there's holes for the actual bolt menu. It's basically a sign. And I made this pole with a CNC cut cradle on it, and the wheel sits in the cradle, and then this leather belt wraps up and over the wheel and basically cinches it around these rods and holds it to the stand. Now, I used to just have like an umbrella base that this thing would slide into, and when I moved down here to Tennessee, I lost the umbrella base somewhere. Now that I need a new base for it, I don't really want to use an umbrella base. It's just what I had before. But what I do have is a 1960s Auto Union Steely. So although these aren't the D-hole factory wheels that would have come on the 1000 SP, I do have a full set of those wheels with all the hubcaps with the Audi or pre-Audi 4-ring logo on them. But I'm not gonna mess with those at all. I've just set those off to the side, basically just collecting them. But what I did get with this car was a few Auto Union 1000 wheels. So these are a 4x100 15-inch, like 15x4 or something. So I want to use this as the base. And I am going to strip it down and spray paint it black. You know, I thought about powder coating it, but for the time we have, I don't have that time. What I want to do is, I've already been to the computer and I've already laser cut a cardboard template. We've got an overall outer diameter. We've got our 4x100 pattern in the middle. And then we've got an 1.5" ID, which is the OD of the pipe that I've used for the stand. So essentially what I'm going to do now is go to the CNC plasma table. Ultimately, I'll just use these as through bolts. These will just be like a beauty bolt, essentially, because I thought about welding this right to the wheel, but I don't really want to ruin the wheel if I don't have to. So what I might do is weld this plate, once it's on steel, to the base of that pole. So essentially, we'll through bolt this whenever we get to a show with 4, just making it look nice. This will all be black, and I'll have some nuts on the backside. That is essentially what we're going for. I took the 1/4-inch plate off and I put some 3/16 plate on. We don't need 1/4-inch thick for this. That's overkill. All right, so what I didn't film was I decided to use this little corner of the material to just cut my 1.5-inch hole that the actual pole is going to go down through. I'm still learning plasma kerf. You've got 3 different options of cuts. You can cut inside your line, you can cut on your line, or you can cut on the outside of your line. So if you're cutting just like a gusset, a triangular piece, you want to cut on the outside of this line, so ultimately the shape that you created on the computer is the shape that you get cut out, because you're cutting on the outside of that line. Not knowing exactly how large I needed it, I didn't want to cut the whole plate and have the center hole be far too big. So I cut this 1.5 inches on the line, so I'd know what to do with the plate. And lo and behold, we are snug. So let's get this plate cut out and we'll move on to actually tacking some stuff together. All right, we're gonna tack weld this pole to this plate. Basically what you're seeing here is Volkswagen lug nut caps with 14 mil studs with Porsche 924S aluminum lug bolts on the backside holding the whole plate. Once this is all black, this might look kind of cool. I don't know. All All right, a quick cleanup, quick paint job on the wheel. And this is essentially what we're working with. Not a bad, quick little project. Got a chance to use some cool new machines in the shop. Can tick that off of the mile-long to-do list. Well, that's the sign done. Let's get on to tinkering on the 1000 SP. All right, so here's the culprit before. These things were leaking, and this is with a Scotch-Brite pad. I mean, that corrosion is nuts. So, brought some tooling. We cleaned one up already, so hopefully that one's holding there just fine. 3, 2, 1. First try. Let's go.
Ludwick tire service.
Yeah.
Ludwick stretch service.
All right, guys, well, we are back from Quick Everett's. Thank Perry, Derek, Hal, and all the guys for all the help. Constantly having to break out the bead blaster. But we got the 195s off. Just a little too beefy for what I wanted to do. All right, well, now I am stoked to get these things mounted on the rear of the 1000 SP because we're gonna get a little bit more drop and we're gonna get a lot more continuity to the front setup since we're running a 165 50-15 up front as well on the 7s. It's just right that we run them on the 8s in the back. But let's get the body up since we still can't put a wheel on that with the body down. We do have to cross that bridge soon. But for now, we'll get the body up, we'll get the wheels on, we'll set the body back down, and we'll see what kind of overhead space we have now given ourselves with a smaller tire. Man, it never gets old. And overhead inside, we have so much space now. We were sitting on that parcel shelf with the 195/45, and honestly, going down that extra inch we have now is all I wanted to do. Maybe even only a ½ inch. I am just so stoked on that look. Sitting flat sills. Love keeping up with the 2010 stretch tire look. Always like that look. So we're sorted on wheels and tires. All right, so let's talk about steering and what it's gonna take to make this thing steer. This is another big item on the checklist before complex union because even though the car is not gonna be running and driving and anywhere near done in time for complex union, I want to be able to move it somewhat easily, and being able to steer makes that much more possible. Surprisingly and thankfully, even with the steering box on the EvaResto beam, just kind of mocked up. We don't have our stabilizer on yet. We have to put our mount here for our stabilizer. I've got the track rods in and the wheels just kind of eyeballed straight. So where the box falls on the beam in relation to where the steering column comes out of the firewall on the 1000 SP, we are pretty lined up. It's really not bad. We're gonna extend the column from here to here. And I was really hoping that this guy off the 1000 SP was the same spacing and same stud pattern as the corresponding flange on the actual Beetle steering box. Now, on the BMW 700, we got lucky. We had to do the same thing in the 700. I'll show you guys in this thing real quick. So, if you guys have been on the channel for a while, you know all about this car, the 1960 700 Sport Coupe. Now this is also on a Beetle pan, but it's on a late pan. This is on a ball joint IRS 69-ish, 69 and a half Beetle pan. But where the pedal cluster mounts on the pan in relation to where the dashboard is in the body, in order to have a comfortable driver position, we had to bring the steering column back like 18 inches. We had to bring the seat back almost into where the back seats were in order to drive comfortably so your legs weren't scrunched right up, sitting up against the dashboard. So when we made our custom column in the 700, we realized that the 2-stud flange on the BMW column was the same exact pattern as the Volkswagen Beetle steering box pattern. So all we had to do was stretch it sleeve it, plug weld it together, and we were done. So what were the chances that the same year, 1960 Auto Union, also German made, was also the same? So I removed the 2-stud flange and the rag joint. So the rag joint, although could be replaced, is still together. It doesn't look like the rag joint that came off of the Beetle pan that the car is sitting on. Look at that. But my friend Sam Bunker brought by a brand new rag joint, and those aren't even remotely close, right? So I used the new rag joint and the Auto Union flange. Same deal, not the same. Like, it's off by half the distance of the hole, so it's obvious that it's not the same. And it's so crazy to think that it's that close but not the same for German manufacturers of the same year. Let me tell you guys how this became a true hot rodding story real quick. It turns out that when I moved here 3 years ago, I threw a whole bunch of stuff in the U-Haul truck that was some of my spare 700 parts. Now, these are parts that I didn't think I would ever need. One of those parts that I threw in the U-Haul truck, a BMW 700 steering column. Who has one of those? Well, apparently I do. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take the new rag joint that's gonna mount to the steering box on the EvaResto beam, and then we're going to cut this column to the length that we need, which, look at that. I'll go to the CNC table and design a new flange that will correspond to the 1000 SP flange here. And I think I'm gonna use the 1000 SP rag joint here, paired with our new flange we'll make on the table. And then the custom flange we make to pair to this rag joint and that flange, which will be removable, we will weld to the backside of the BMW 700 column, which will then stretch down to mate to the Beetle steering box. So we have a flange designed and pre-pro cut out of cardboard. And let us see if this is close enough. Oh yeah. All right, so before I go any farther in building the steering column, I really want to have an idea at like ride height, what it's like zeroed or 1/16 of an inch in, you know, whatever book might call for a Beetle front end, for toe in or toe out while you're driving. I put some air in the bags, brought it up a little bit, just eyeballing where I think I might drive it at, you know, super low. So now I'm getting a tentative measurement . So let us see our trajectory here. Oh yeah. That a little bit. I think that's going to work quite well. That way we can unbolt here, and we can also unbolt here, and then the original 2-bolt flange on the Auto Union has a pinch bolt, so that'll slide off the splines so you can get the column out through the inside of the car. All right, guys, well, we got the flange cut out on our new custom steering column extender and got the cuts just right. We're able to get our bolts through, no problem. Well, I'm pretty stoked on that, and I think it's going to work just fine. So now there's only one thing left to do. So I kind of made sure that this was straight. Oh, it's cool that that doesn't just spin anymore. Before it was just an open column, so it would just spin. The steering wheel's splined, just like some of the early water-cooled Volkswagen stuff, Mark 1, Mark 2, all that. It's like a thin splined steering wheel, so you can take the wheel off and re-index it on a spline to get it perfectly straight once you start driving. But I wanted to make sure I had it pretty straight when we welded the column extender in. How about that? Oh man, that's awesome. I'm probably just as stoked on getting the steering hooked up as I was airing it down for the first time. Yeah, that's a huge step forward, getting steering figured out. And let's just take a second to honor the fallen BMW 700 that gave up its steering column so it could one day get put in a 1960 Auto Union 1000 SP on a Volkswagen Beetle chassis. But to be fair, that BMW 700 had literally rotted into two pieces, and I got it with the 700 Sport Coupe, all the parts that were good. So having a steering column as an extra part was saved for literally this type of application. Got me out of a bind. I didn't have to build the extender. We just had an extender. Well, I'm going to end the episode there, guys. Another huge step for the SP in what is certainly a ticking clock heading up to Complex Union. Thank you guys so much for watching and for all of your support. We will see you guys shortly in the next episode.